lost.
It's lost. Okay. So we're moving on to item 13. A decision to adopt the Greater Christchurch Spatial Plan. Now, we have, through Mark's help, we have the effort and time that has been put into this over the last 12 months.
2 years.
Thank you. If we don't know what's actually in this and all we're doing is adopting it, if we shouldn't be, we haven't paid attention if we're wanting to change stuff. So are we taking it as read, and are there any questions of Mark? Great. Right. Well, I'm happy to move it, and Councillor Harrison Hunt is happy to second it. And so is there any debate? Councillor Johansson.
Thank you. I mean, just to reflect that, we actually have a Greater Christchurch urban development strategy, and it's quite interesting to look over time what's happened to that in terms of the goals that we set, what we've achieved, and obviously having the earthquakes in the middle has dramatically altered the landscape of our Greater Christchurch area. But I am concerned that we seem to be just constantly reinventing things, and actually many of the actions in here are actions that we've already agreed to do, but some of them just haven't been done. In particular, my biggest concern with the urban development strategy is that it enabled more development to go to the greenfields, but it sort of failed to provide the social and environmental things that were important. And so we got motorways going further out from the city centre to the suburbs, enabling massive amounts of development to happen in Selwyn and Waimak, and made it easy for people to live out there. But at the same time, things like getting good design for intensive housing, getting inclusionary zoning, affordable housing, getting environmental things put in place just didn't really seem to happen as a priority. And I think that's really unfortunate, because the urban development strategy actually was a pretty good engagement. So I'm interested in the spatial plan. It does feel like we've got too many layers of governance in our region, particularly having an urban growth partnership with central government, and yet we're still trying to get housing affordability addressed. But I will support the spatial plan, but again, it just seems like we are just constantly spending time reinventing things rather than focusing on the things that we want to happen being done or not being done, and understanding why, and then working out how we get them done. I mean, the classic example would be the rapid mass transit, and just look at the time and energy was spent on business case after business case, and we don't seem to have made any progress on that issue in terms of how the city has developed. Well, at the meantime, we've completely extended into a lot of the Canterbury Plains, with more population being dispersed without the infrastructure to really make it a modern, sustainable city. But appreciate the work that has gone into this, appreciate the hearing panel, and I do want to commend the group for doing a lot of work with young people in our city. I know that was something I was really keen to see at the start. I know it's something that was picked up on through the process, but happy to support it, but just feel like we need to get better at just making sure that we're reducing the things that we're doing in terms of reinventing the wheel, and get much more focused on the actions that we want to deliver and getting them done in a timely fashion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Templeton.
Thanks so much. So we had the UDS, as Councillor Johansson mentioned, and then we had the FDS, the Future Development Strategy, and I was on the panel for that one. And now we have the GCSP, Greater Christchurch Spatial Plan. None of them are reinvented. They are kind of a review based on new information. So the city changes in the meantime, and we need to look at whether things were fit for purpose and move on from there. And I noticed that the UDS had in it an infrastructure boundary. It's the first time we'd had a proper infrastructure boundary. It's a thick black line on map A as part of the ECAN documents, and it actually sits with ECAN at the regional council level rather than at the council level. And it is an infrastructure boundary that's designed to stop us sprawling onto the productive soils. And all of the development in Christchurch since that UDS, even the stuff that was released under the LURP, has been within that infrastructure boundary, and that's helpfully not due to change, which is great. Density is key for us as a city going forward and going up, not out. But to get density, to meet our goals under the spatial plan, under the National Policy Statement for Urban Development, which Minister Bishop confirmed on Friday we do need to have in place by the 12th of September, To have all of those things happen with density and for our cities still to function, transport is the key. You cannot separate transport and land use planning. And that's not just for the outer suburbs, but it's for the actual city as well. And all of those areas that we are due to intensify through the NPSUD need really good transport. We are not going to be able to just make our roads wider that are within the city already. We need sustainable transport, we need public transport, more cycling, more walking, but ways for people to get around without cars. Otherwise, we will be in gridlock, which is why it was just gutting to find in the new draft government policy statement on land transport that all of that funding is going to be cut. So I'm really looking forward to us as a city council putting forward a submission on the draft GPS and making it really super clear to the government that for us to meet their goals with housing and with urban density, we need the transport infrastructure to go with it, and we will need their help in funding that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Peters.
Thank you. I concur with Councillor Templeton's sentiments there. The draft GPS that the government put out just a couple of days ago, I thought was incredibly disappointing in light of this mass rapid transit that we've got as part of this today. And I really hope that we as a council can pull a strong submission together to suggest to this government that they're asking us to do the NPSUD densification, but they're not prepared to back us with our mass rapid transit investment. They've got the inclusion of Auckland and Wellington for their transport networks, but they've ignored Christchurch. Hopefully we as a council can find a way to submit to that in light of this decision that we're doing today, to look at the visionary approach for Greater Christchurch and the fact that we know we need to do what this includes, and we need to have the backing from government to be able to do it. And to me, there's nothing more frustrating than doing continual business case after business case and actually making no progress towards getting the progress that we need to land this visionary development for the Greater Christchurch area. So hopefully we can, now that we confirm this today, we can pull together and lobby government to have their support to develop the city going forward to where it needs to be with their investment to help do it. There's nothing more certain than we need to look at the idea of intensification and better transport. So please, let's put the plea out there to this government to help us come to the party.
Aaron, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. A couple of things about plans and planning, and the ones that we do as a council and government have intentions for, is the public's got to go along with it. If people don't want to live on top of each other, they're never going to, unless that's the only thing they can afford, and they're squeezed into a particular zone. And sometimes when you talk about people with the least amount of resources, that doesn't always have a great outcome, because in a number of cities overseas they're called projects and they don't go that well. Yet the same shaped, same style building might be next to Central Park in New York, and the apartments will be $6 to $8 million each. It's the same building, it's the people in it and their outcomes and the way their life's going that determines how the rest of the interactions with everyone around them goes. Putting people on top of each other doesn't always work, and to be honest, I don't think Kiwis get on that well and are ready for great population density without, people here love their bit of dirt and their house and their space around them. As a people, we don't actually seem to like each other that much that we want a population density that supports rail. And if you look at Sydney, recently put rail in, where the light rail goes through the middle of Sydney, it has a population density of 8,500 people per square kilometre. Christchurch is 280. Their train's quite full, so it does work when you've got that many people, but here it won't work. We do not have that density of population. And Metro Wellington has a population density 3 times ours, and rail works, but the Greater Wellington area is similar to ours at 290. In the cities that we love to compare ourselves to, the beautiful European cities, your Copenhagen, let's be the Copenhagen of the south, and Stockholm and everything else, they're 4,000 people per square kilometre. course trains work, of course light rail works. We don't have enough people living on top of each other. And the question we have to ask our people is, do they want to? Because you can plan all you want, but they're not going to, build it and they will come is based on a story about ghosts playing baseball in a man's paddock. It doesn't always come true. So be careful what you wish for, but staff have done a lot of work because they have to, and it's good to give guidance, but until people want to live on top of each other, we're not going to have people catching the train. Simple as that.
Councillor Harrison-Hunt.
I completely understand Councillor Kewen's sentiment, and his messaging is always elite, to be honest. But I did want to just capitalise on building on top of each other. And the interesting thing is, most of us started with stepping stones. We had our first homes, and then we went into something bigger and better. And the fact of the matter is, there's not enough stepping stones at the moment in this market for people my age and people younger. That might mean that we build on top of each other to move on to something like the greenfield development that everyone wants to wish for. So in that way, the MPSUD is going to be great for a lot of us, and Riccarton's going to be one of the biggest, highest influenced areas within that, particularly on the MRT catchment, but also around development. So I'm hoping not to kneecap developers. I don't mind that they make a bit of a buck as long as they're building really good homes for our generation. And making sure that we hold on to that character as a council. So yes, I'm happy for Riccarton to be the stepping stone for those young investors, people my age, those workers moving from point A to point B, whether it be through bus, whether it be through walking, cycling, or light rail. And I'm extremely pessimistic that this government is going to invest in light rail, seeing as they pulled a couple of $1 billion out of that plan anyway, particularly in Auckland light rail. So I'm going to try and keep that under the radar till the next government wants to actually build it. Yeah, that's me.
Okay, and I'll have the last say because I can. This plan is not for next week, it's for when we do have one day 1 million people in our area. So it's just planning for the arteries, I suppose, to the beating heart in the middle of the city. So this is all we're doing, is planning for the future, not just next week. And the amount of work that Mark and his team have done over 2 years, sorry, I thought it was one, but it's absolutely phenomenal. So I'll be supporting this. So with that, I will put this motion. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you very much. Now,